My name is McGrath, and I'm a resident of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I am among the thousands of citizens who are extremely concerned about the irreversible effects of hydraulic fracturing. I ask you to withdraw the draft regulations for gas drilling in the Delaware River watershed because they are inadequate to cover the acute and cumulative risks to our waters. The public comment period must be extended and expanded. DRBC must hold more hearings in urban areas, and we must wait for the science. I ask that you push the March 16th public comment deadline back by a minimum of 6 months and not finalize any regulations for at least 2 years in order to take into account the EPA study of deep gas drilling's life cycle impacts on water. Please rewrite the regulations after a cumulative impact study has been completed for the Delaware River watershed. In Pennsylvania and the other states where fracking is permitted, there has been methane in tap water, polluted wells, toxic discharges in streams, well explosions, and conversion of scenic wild places into sacrificial industrial zones. If fracking is as safe as the gas companies claim, why do they oppose the Frack Act? And while gas companies tout natural gas as a clean alternative to oil, recent studies show that when the entire life cycle of natural gas production is considered, it is as much or more damaging when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions. DRBC regulations currently do not include this source of pollution from air. They must. I would like to add substantive comments regarding gas drilling waste in the Delaware River watershed from Section 7.6 of the draft regulations. 1. Drilling mud and flowback must be classified as hazardous waste because it contains contaminants deadly to biological life. 2. There must be no impoundments for flowback anywhere in our watershed. These open plastic-lined pits are each a Superfund site in the making and must be completely outlawed. 3. Waste must be tested for NCQO, a potent carcinogen known to show up in flowback as a result of chemical interactions. And 4. There must be no discharge of gas drilling in the basin. This puts all our health at risk. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cathy, Pregmon from Delaware County, Pennsylvania. I am here as a concerned citizen speaking on behalf of myself and the many others who could not come today. I do not believe that there are people who couldn't come that were motivated by apathy. Rather, they may have been concerned with economic survival that does not depend on their gas drilling leases. I urge the DRBC to revisit the draft regulations and also extend the public comment period. We look to your agency to provide better, more comprehensive regulations than were currently promulgated by DEP. Please put restrictions on the chemicals drillers can use in the fracking process, specify wastewater standards on chemicals used in the drilling process, and do not allow exemptions from stormwater management as exempted under the Clean Water Act. We know that you, the DRBC, can promulgate better, safer, and more stringent regulations that are currently in place. I urge you to wait for the cumulative studies and protect the river basin and all its citizens before it's too late. Thank you very much.
Delaware County, Pennsylvania, and I'm among the thousands of citizens who are extremely concerned about the irreversible effects of hydraulic fracturing, and I ask that you push back the March 16th public comment deadline by a minimum of 6 months and not finalize regulations for at least 2 years in order to take into account the EPA study of deep gas drilling's life cycle impacts on water. I want to point out that the interests of giant multinational oil and gas corporations are quite different from the interests of the people who live in this area, and that strong regulation and enforcement is extremely important. The gas and oil companies have shown that they cannot police themselves, as evidenced by thousands of violations in Pennsylvania alone in 2010. These draft rules that you have issued rely on weak state regulations in many areas, and an area that I'd like to talk about for the next 45 seconds is the centralized wastewater storage facilities that the DRBC allows in these regulations, and they defer to state standards for them. In New York's draft supplemental generic environmental impact statement, impoundments as large as 40 acres are anticipated, and operators are building huge impoundments in Pennsylvania right now. One of the major sources of air pollution is from these wastewater impoundments, in which toxic contaminants volatilize to the air, then are breathed in or deposited on soil and water, causing highly mobile pollution. Further, DRBC proposes no setback requirements for the impoundments, deferring to the states. For on-site pits up to 250,000 gallons, Pennsylvania's setbacks are the same as for gas wells, which is only 100 feet from a water body. and as close as 20 inches above the seasonal high water table. So, in summary, for the last 10 seconds here, please wait for the science, understand that there may not be a safe way to do hydrofracturing, and focus on renewable energy such as solar, wind, geothermal, and the other sustainable energy sources that will guide us through the 21st century.
DRBC regulations do not require the use of non-toxic fracking fluids. We need to push the industry to do these things if they want to do any drilling at all at our watershed. DRBC does not require a tracer to be added to fracking and flowback waters to ensure that we can pinpoint pollution back to the drillers, therefore setting up a system that protects the drillers and not the communities. We know from the history of the drillers across the nation, when you look at the track record, they're not standing up, they're not being accountable, so we can't have them do this here. Also, air impacts are not addressed. Really very concerned about the new studies that EPA has come out to looking at the fact that emissions are 9,000 times greater for methane than what they had thought before. And also, scientists have shown clearly that we need the setbacks, that we need to protect the watershed and the 500 setbacks even more than that. So I implore you to do the right thing, to use your power, and to keep special protection waters. Thanks.